Welcome to MCN and the BSA Goldstar. Now, this is an eagerly anticipated bike, not least because BSA is one of the big icons of British motorcycling, up there with Norton and Triumph. So when BSA were reformed, 2016, I think Mahindra bought the name. When they reformed it, there's a lot of excitement around this bike, and it started its development life in 2018. It was interrupted by COVID, but now it's out. Here we are in the summer of 2022, and we've ridden it at long last. Now this bike is inspired by the 50s BSA, back when BSA were huge and selling absolute shed loads of motorbikes, and the DBD34. Not that I know that from experience, but I've done my research. One thing to remember along the way during this review is that the BSA is built down to a price. That's not a criticism, but it's built to be affordable. But one nice thing about it is that it doesn't pretend to be something it isn't. So this is a simple retro roadster. And there are two ways we are going to review this bike. There's the clinical road tester way, where I explain exactly what it's like to ride, and then there's all the emotion connected to the badge. So let's unhitch the PR trailer for 1 minute and talk about exactly what it's like to ride. BSA decided to launch the Goldstar on a testing circuit, a place called Millbrook. And Millbrook has got these alpine courses that mimic real roads, but they're all one way. You can use all the road, and for all intents and purposes, it is a track. So we were just focusing on what the bike is like to ride. So let's talk about its power first. It's got a single cylinder 650cc 45 bhp engine. It's very, very smooth. It's very characterful. Most retros are parallel twins or triples. So it's quite unique in that respect. It's very smooth. It's a proper member of the Ton Up Club like the original one. We saw 110 mile an hour indicated around the Millbrook speed bowl, and BSA claim 103 mile an hour. So it's quick, it's really smooth revving. It's a nice friendly engine. If you had to be critical, you would say that the throttle response around the slow corners, picking up a close throttle, is a little bit jerky. Handling wise, that's the bit that isn't that impressive about the BSA. We pushed it quite hard, and it does go where you want it. It's a bit messy when you push it hard. The bars are waggling in your hands, the suspension's bouncing. It's got pretty good ground clearance actually. And the 18-inch front wheel, which is kind of a period feature, isn't it? Most bikes have got 17-inch fronts. But that feels like an old school 18-inch front wheel, whereas a lot of modern retros kind of dial that feeling out. The steering is quite heavy, it flops into corners, but the advantage of that is it's very stable through fast corners. So, you know, pushing it hard isn't the BSA's forte. It would do it, but it doesn't really like it. And the ride quality over the bumpy sections of Millbrook isn't great. The suspension kind of lacks refinement, and as we said at the beginning, it's all built down to a price. Bike is quite heavy. It's 213 kilos fully fueled, which is a lot for a small bike. And you feel that most of all just when you're pushing the bike around really. Once you get up to speed, you don't really notice the weight, and it kind of adds to the stability and enhances what little ride quality it's got. And the brakes are pretty good. It's got Brembos at the front. They've actually got more feel than a lot of more expensive bikes. Pretty good power. Once you push it hard, it's only a single disc setup. You can override the brakes quite easily and get the ABS kicking in, but it's pretty good. The back brake works really well, and you need a lot of back brake to keep it under control when you're pushing it hard, but again, that's not what the BSA is about. And it runs Pirelli Phantom Sport Comp tyres, which are made to look like old school tyres, which grip really, really well. So I'd say from a ride quality and handling point of view, it's kind of okay. And the engine is smooth, it's urgent when you want it to be, and quite docile and quite easy to manage. Right, so let's put the old PR trailer back on the review and talk about all the kind of the wistful kind of sunny Sunday elements of the BSA. which we didn't get to test. So that's something we're going to be kind of experiencing when we get to ride the BSA again, when we've got it in our own hands. And I think that when you ride this bike slowly, when you're just, you know, just pottering between the leafy hedgerows, I think it's going to be a really, really lovely bike. It's very easy to ride. The clutch action is smooth. The 5-speed gearbox is direct. It's nice and easy. Smooth throttle, progressive brakes, low seat. So if you're a new rider, it's A2 license friendly, by the way, so that's good. So if you're a new rider, it's very, very easy to handle. As easy as the bike you took your CBT on. The engine note is maybe a little bit muted, but it has to be. It's Euro 5. But when you rev it, it's got quite a nice throb to it. When there's a gaggle of them together, as there was on the launch, they all sounded really good, and you could quite easily have been in the Goodwood Revival paddock. So I think if you knock the baffle out at the end of the exhaust as well, you'll really unleash the sound of it. The other big question is, how does it compare to its closest rival? And its closest rival is the Royal Enfield Interceptor 650. In spirit, it's very, very similar to the BSA. It's got an iconic old badge. It's built down to a price. It's designed to be simple, easy to ride. The Royal Enfield feels better developed. Its engine is smoother, as it would be. It's a parallel twin. But the handling, even though suspension components are equally as basic, everything's kind of set up just that little bit better. And that's why the Interceptor has been such a huge sales success over the years, and it's won multiple MCN group tests and awards. So it'll be interesting to put the two bikes back to back. I think the BSA's engine might be a little bit more characterful, but if I had to put a bet down on it, I would say that the Royal Enfield dynamically is better. But what the BSA is a simple roadster, no thrills, but it's got lots of nice little details. It's pretty well finished. Paint finishes are nice, the chrome tank versions are nice. Where the tanks kind of join together at the bottom, where they're pinched together, it's a little bit messy. Some of the paint finishes aren't 100%, but this isn't a Ducati, remember. You've got the nice analog clocks, that kind of, the needles start at 1 o'clock and they whoosh around the dial, that's pretty cool. You've got where the amp meter used to be, or was on the old bike, you've got the idiot lights in there. They're pretty dull actually, you can't see them very well. You've got 2 little digital displays in the clocks for the fuel and the odometer, which are pretty small as well. The switchgear is a bit cheap, but generally it's nice. I mean, when you look at it, it's neat. That's the best way to describe it. It's a very neat bike. The styling is nice. The way the pea-shooter exhaust goes round and exits is lovely. Spoke wheels, Brembos. Lots of nice badges and detailing, so it's pretty good for a 6.5, 7 grand bike. So the BSA Goldstar is more than just a generic motorcycle with a BSA badge plonked on the side. It really has been thought about by BSA. It's been well developed. They've had help from people like Rotax, Ricardo. There's a lot of money behind the development. The parent company's Mahindra, who are huge in India. And it's so well thought about. I think that away from a test track, and when you're riding it on the road and you're just popping down the cafe on a Sunday morning, I think it will give new riders, older riders, and everyone in between a lot of pleasure.